When I read the first script for film 1 in 2015, which was Maigret Sets a Trap, the world that it described was very, very rich, very textured, very interesting, and you had all these curious characters kind of colliding and meeting in different parts of the city. We had sort of upscale parts of Paris, we had Montmartre, we had seedier parts of Paris. The first decision I made was I had to learn about the most real version of that world that I could find. So I started looking at photographs. Photo reportage of Paris in the mid-50s is fantastic. And there are several really amazing photographers from that period. Frank Horvath, Willy Ronis, Brassai a bit earlier, Cartier-Bresson, to name a few, who documented Paris, the sort of underbelly of Paris, the sort of, you know, the patrician Paris, the streets of Paris, the workers, the bargees of Paris. All of these areas are documented by these photographers. What we set out to do as we started was to go about what I call world building. You know, we have to create our universe and then set it into the location that we chose to work with, which was Budapest, which has worked so well for us for numerous reasons.
There's a kind of a broody atmosphere about Budapest and Hungary in general, which seems to sort of chime in some way with Maigret's world. Buildings of great character, and I think when actors walk into it as well, they also feel it.
There was a document that we all shared called Maigret's World, which proved to be kind of, we almost called it set text. It's like an academic treatise on Maigret's universe, and it pulls out all the curiosities and peculiarities and specificities of Maigret as a character through all his stories. And it was a goldmine for all of us when sort of researching the detail that you'd expect to find around Maigret. Often in Maigret books, there's descriptions of eating and drinking whilst meeting. So we have a drinks trolley. Obviously, attitudes towards drinking at work were very different in the 1950s. So on that trolley, we had brandy, we have decanters, beers, glasses. What we wanted to feel was that Maigret obviously inhabits the majority of his life in the Quai des Orfèvres. And as I say, his office works as a kind of home from home as well, where he'll often sleep in his chair, he'll work through the night and so forth. But he has a very, very intimate and private relationship with his wife. And so the apartment is very different. I would say it's very much Madame Maigret's world. It's warm, it's inviting, it's very friendly, it's very intimate. The furniture that we chose to use through Maigret's apartment, we actually bought all of the pieces for that apartment in Paris, just so that we could feel sort of the authenticity of the choices. I communicated with a researcher based in Paris who set out a little plan for me to go to some good markets that dealt specifically with period French furniture and so forth, but also some bookshops and antiquarians who sort of dealt in period graphics, newspapers, magazines, film posters, record sleeves, and so forth of the day. So I went over to Paris for literally 24 hours and deep dived into a process of getting as much archive reference material for the graphic story as possible, but also some key purchasing, cafe dressings, bistro furniture of the period, folding tables and chairs, certain period signages, tobacco signs that we could hang in the streets. And then beyond those key principal dressings, we've obviously done a lot of purchasing in flea markets and so forth in Budapest.
In Budapest, there's the brilliant second-hand shop that I've used over the last 18 months, and they're marvellous. You go in, she lets me take it away. If I use it, I have to pay for it. If not, but that's done through trust of being here a lot.
And you and Juliet used to come to my mother's apartment and we'd get dressed up together.
But the majority of it is from a costumier's, because you don't have that luxury of time to wander around.
When I read the book, I liked the way the characters were dealt with as the storytellers. It wasn't so much the plot as the characters. And most of the work that I've done over the years, the work that's interested me most has been character-based.
He was a nothing. A little man, placing little bets for little winnings.
And even though I've done quite a bit of episodic television, detective stories and pathology work, forensic work, police work, all that kind of thing, it's always the characters that get me interested. And Maigret's characters are both complex and unexplained. So in a way, when you read a Maigret novel, you have to, there's quite a lot you have to sort of fill in. It does go by leaps and bounds. We're relying so much on the actors and their experience and their insight and their boldness to experiment with what Simenon is doing. You haven't necessarily read the novel, you read the script. But you might say to them, they might say, well, what's the reason for me doing this? And you go, well, there's quite a lot of different reasons you could be doing this. And what about the background? Well, the background could be you killed so-and-so, or you robbed a bank, or you did this. You did something bad. And I just love when the actors just go with that. They go, okay, sorry, I get it now. I did something really bad. And then they bounce into the scene.
Oh, no.
Actors really like it. It gives them a chance to sort of kick things around a bit.
We should take this. No. Put it down.
And cut.
Cut there, please.
Check that, please. As John Huston said, you cast a film, you can walk away. It's almost like when you get the location, you can almost walk away. It's sort of, it's going to help you so much to amplify and deepen the characters. To me, the mise en scène is a combination of actor and design, which includes location and lighting and everything else. And I see the actor as being, however much you work with the actor, however hard he works at demonstrating the character or illustrating the character, he's still only part of something wider or deeper. And actors, the best actors, are ones who have an instinct for that. Bringing all these elements in front of the camera is what I enjoy most. In the cutting room, I find the magic. I like to sit back and see the magic happening, because for a start, it's somebody else's responsibility. I love handing over responsibility to an editor and saying, see what you can make of it. I'll say, this is what I thought when I was doing it. In terms of the emphasis on light and shade, or on a particular actor or a particular relationship, or this is what I was trying to do here. This is what I was trying to do with the camera. This is the story the camera was trying to tell. And so I'll pass all that on and let them get on with it.
It becomes a to and fro. It becomes a to and fro between the director and the editor. This bit always worried me. What can we do to improve this? Do we need to attack this particular scene? No, we need this scene. We have to leave it as it is. It's an important staging off point for what follows. So maybe if we're not finding it enjoyable, maybe we need to look elsewhere. Stuff that comes before it. Is that entertaining enough? Is it dramatic enough? Is it telling the story as effectively as it can?
Madame Maigret, you're a very clever woman.
It's just like talking to an actor. Sometimes they really get it. And you come into the cutting room in the mornings and they say, how about this? And you're thinking, wow, I never saw it quite like that. That's great. Or I'll have to go away and have a think about it.
Tom, who plays Carl on The Night at the Crossroads, has a burn down one side and the loss of the eye. So you start with researching the burns.
Keep moving.
So it's a lot of graphic photographs.
I cannot help you with that.
We have to be very aware that we have a watershed cut-off point. So it can't be too grotesque, but by the same token, it needs to register and it needs to look real and look like he's been in a fire. So we did a few trials and then sort of compromised and took the texture down and then brought it back in by colouring and how we colour the piece once it's in.
What does it feel like to be so disfigured?
And then also we had to take into account the contact lens, which we had specially made to completely block out the pupil. So he was invariably blind in one eye. And it took him a little getting used to.
And in the clubs of Montmartre, where the story takes place, and in the period we're talking about, jazz is a big element. And we were thinking about, stories like Lift to the Scaffold, Louis Malle film, Around Midnight, where he uses jazz not just as source, but as score. And when we were in the club and we were having these jazz tracks playing for the dancers, but it made us think, well, what if we use some of the ideas?
I agree.
And use our own instrumentation and make a score, talk to our composer about a score that's more jazz-oriented than perhaps the other episodes.
When talking about the use of CGI and set extension on Maigret, one of the things that we've always been very, very clear about is that we're not trying to do the big da-da Eiffel Tower moment, Louvre moment. What we want to do is just add a little moment at the edge, maybe just, again, a throwaway image just at the edge of frame that helps us understand where we are. And so, for example, on Maigret's Dead Man, we had a wonderful sequence, a chase through the docks. And there's an area of Budapest that works very well for that. And so, with a little bit of cleaning up on the wharf buildings to remove modern cranes and so forth, the placement of a very, very subtle placement of a period barge passing through a channel near to a wharf building and so forth. Things that you really wouldn't recognize as being CGI as the viewer. The frame starts to come to life, and again, it just sits quietly and kind of roots that context in that time. There was a restaurant that we fabricated out of an existing location in a kind of industrial part of Budapest that needed to link with those docks. And the two places weren't joined up, but we created the connective tissue with a clever use of CGI, where over the top of our restaurant buildings, we started to feel the wharf buildings that we'd shot down in the docks in Budapest. That's the way we use CGI, as quietly as possible. We're looking at a city that's dragging itself back off of its knees. Only 10 years since the Germans retreated, and so there was poverty. We're not trying to sort of just tell that story, but we want to feel that story. And it's very hard to tell that story in our contemporary Paris 2017, because the city's been sort of restored and polished to within an inch of its life.
Show.